lot of mixed feelings about getting gear for my play. Let's talk about it.
What does that even mean, Bowers?
Hi there, YouTube. I'm back again today for another game review, another special tag team review. Boom, boom. I'm here with my 10-year-old son, Shaun.
Hello.
My 7-year-old son, Luke.
Hola.
And we're talking about getting gear, a challenging race to avoid pitfalls in the road and reach the finish line first from I Play. This is for 2 to 4 players, and we had just got done playing it 3 players. I also have played it in the past in my classroom. And in Getting Gear, this is the game we're going to start off by setting up a bunch of these road tiles like so. So you're going to set up a track with the clear side of the roads, and then what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to decide how many dice you would like to roll. Either 1, 2, 3, or 4. You're going to roll the dice. They're either going to come up as green, yellow, or red. Most of the sides are green. If you get any reds at all, you don't get to move on your turn, and your plastic little car isn't going to move. However, if you don't get any reds at all, then you will move the number of spaces that you have green. Now, when you land on a space, if it already has bad stuff on it, you're going to have to deal with that bad stuff is, and we'll talk about a bunch more of that later. But if it's just a clear tile, because one side is clear, one side has hazards, then you flip it over and you deal with whatever you landed on. This could be a variety of different things, which are all going to impact, potentially, this little steering column you have right here. You have a speedometer, you have an engine, you have gas. You have to try and make it so that none of these get into the red, because if any of them get into the red, because you're going to be marking them off with a little pencil or pen, then you have immediately lost the game, or you might have to go back to the pit stop. There's also a nitro button here, which means you can double your roll, and you can only do it once per game. There's a wrench here, which means you can negate some sort of incoming damage you're taking, and the person who gets to the finish line first is going to be the winner of Get in Gear. That's a brief synopsis of it. Let's start with Luke. What did you think about Get in Gear?
I liked it because the fun things. I like this.
The hazards?
Yeah, I like the hazards.
There is a good variety of hazards. There's gas, which takes down your gas. There's an oil slick, which moves you from point A to point B. There's a shortcut. There's a cow, which if you go over it, you immediately stop.
He had a bad experience with the shortcut. Yeah. If you land on a cow, you go back to a pit stop or you lose the game.
No, that is false. You actually just end your turn right there.
Oh, okay. I also liked how there was these.
You like have your own little player hub that you had to take care of?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I remember I got nothing broken except the steering wheel in my F. The F means that's fast full fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Fuel.
Now, I do want to mention one thing. Luke, so we just got done playing one game of this. I've played a little bit in the past in my classroom. Me and Luke's mom believe that Luke likes this game a lot because he crushed our face in. Now, he says that he would still like it either way, right? But if you have kids, you know how that can be sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, not saying that you don't like the game. I'm just saying that I wanted to give everybody this scenario because, Shaun, what did you think about the game?
I'm just going to make this short and sweet. This is what I thought about the game. I didn't like it.
What didn't you like about Getting Gear? And once again, I also feel like it's important to mention when you're reviewing games with kids that Shaun got his face smashed in. Now, I did worse, but Shaun did very, very poor in this game.
I didn't really like how...
Why don't you start off with what you did like first?
Oh.
Please stop.
Okay. I liked the animation on the stuff, like the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
But what I didn't like is how...
That's the only thing you liked?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But what I didn't like is how... Well, first of all, there's the... in the middle, it doesn't really... On your gas, it doesn't really show, like, that when you cross off full, you don't immediately go to empty. So what we had to do is we had to put in
Well, here's the thing. We didn't have to do that. It's completely unnecessary, and this is what I'd call a nitpick. You're complaining about a very minor detail, which is actually factually correct. If you're looking at a gas tank, it doesn't have an M. So why don't you focus on the things that you actually didn't like about the game because they made the game worse, not because of this. It's called a nitpick, what you're doing right here. You don't want to lead with a nitpick in your review generally. You want to get down to the meat and potatoes. Like, what really about this game made you think that it wasn't a bad game? Or wasn't a good game?
I didn't really like it because there was like a whole lot of cards and you barely ever used them. You only used them when you went over glass and rocks.
Well, not when you go. Oh, it's actually worse than what he said. It's only when you land on them.
Oh,
so yeah, there are a lot of cards in the game. You don't see too many of them because typically you're not going to land on these by chance, obviously. So that's once again kind of a nitpick.
Oh.
Like, what about the game didn't you like that? Like, why? Because I don't feel like that's like, I didn't like that game because there wasn't an M on the gas tank and there was too many cards. Like, is that when someone was like, tell me exactly why you don't like this game? That's what you tell them first?
Well,
does that make sense what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, it does.
Because I'm pretty sure I could tear this game apart. But I've reviewed, 2,000 games.
Yeah.
Would you like me to go next? And then
yeah.
you can fill in any cracks? So, starting off with, and this one's for the parents, the rule booklet is not great. There's a couple different things. It's not terrible, but it's just odd. So, one big thing is, there's a very consistent phrase they use here. If you land on something, 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 something is going to happen. So we have established that at the end of your movement, if you land on something, and they actually establish it right at the beginning when they say, if your car has landed on a hazard space, this is after you move your spaces, then you do a thing, all right? So you're like, all right, so if you land on stuff, not if you go over stuff, but if you land on stuff, things happen. However, once we get to the cow, it's all completely thrown out the window because it says, if during your turn you land on a space with a cow, you must stop there even if you have not finished your move, which implies that they mean when you land on something actually can happen numerous times in your turn. If you get 4 greens and go 4 spaces, you would essentially land on 3 spaces because you go, or no, 4 spaces because you go move 1, move 2, move 3. So they, in the middle of the rules, change how they're using the words. However, after playing the game a couple times in the past and now, I can't imagine that that's what they mean because the game would be insanely difficult if that is the case, especially if you're playing on the longer tracks because there is different track sizes that you can utilize. So, minor thing here. Also, just the graphic design of the rule booklet makes it so there's things in here that are kind of hidden unless you read every single little bit of the rules. What I mean by that is, in a game like this, it's kind of a move your car and then see what happens when you're first learning the game, right? Like, you don't really need to know what everything does when you first start. So you just assume, I don't need to read all these last things right here because literally this is just them breaking down what all the different cards in the game do. Do I need to know right now what all the different cards in the game do? No. So I can just skip this last part. No, you can't, because there's actually valuable information that tells you about the nitro boost on your little thing and about the wrench. And you'll say, well, where does that start? Well, it's just kind of in here. They could have separated it with some sort of line or a bold thing, some little thing. These are nitpicks about the rule booklet, but they're actual nitpicks that make your game playing experience more negative because you'll be like, oh, wait, oh, sorry. There's actually a little bit that I didn't read because I didn't think I needed to read because of how they formatted the rule booklet. And then I see this, too, just a huge unused space of the rules, which drives me mad because if you have a bad rule booklet and if you have an entire page in which you did not use the space, that just means it was a poor rulebook. So, rule booklet-wise, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It will get you up and running relatively easily, but it's just not the greatest. Now, gameplay-wise, why I don't like the game, and why I imagine some of these are the reasons why I don't. It's completely luck-driven. It's just, you roll the dice, and if you get 1 red, then too bad, your turn is over. And you could roll 2, and you might get a red, and still, you could try and play it safe. And Shaun did sometimes, and he still got reds. Was that part of the reason that you didn't like?
Yes.
It's incredibly luck-based. And generally, as many people know, the older you get, the less you tend to enjoy these sort of luck-based games.
Because I like decisions.
You like strategy, you like decisions. However, when you're younger and you're not the best at making the smart strategic choices or those decisions because you haven't played as many games, you tend to enjoy the luck a little bit more because it evens the playing field and makes it so that, even though I'm not as good at strategy as someone else, I can still roll 4 greens and happen to hit my nitro at the right time and get to 8. And that is one thing that I do want to mention, that I don't completely hate this game. I told Luke that, while I don't particularly enjoy this game, I would definitely play it with him again. I do like the artwork, as Shaun says. I do like the variety of different stuff that happens on the road. I'd like to see a little bit more. I do agree with Shaun that I feel like this is a little bit of a missed opportunity not to have some more cards that did some special things, especially considering, once again, we have all this unused space, so we can just put in 3 or 4 other cards that do some special stuff. But at the end of the day, I fall somewhere in the middle of you two, I think. Luke likes the game. I don't like the game. Shaun hates the game. I don't hate the game. I just hate the rules. But Shaun, that's what I thought. So now, you had a little more time to think. What'd you think about it?
A lot of the stuff that you said was part of the reason I didn't like it. And also, it's just, but this might be a nitpick, but I don't get why this is here.
Okay, that's why do you care?
Know.
Like, if you didn't have the box, you wouldn't even know. Like, if we just got this from a garage sale in a bag. So your
Never
3
mind.
major cons that you mentioned is there's no M, there's too many cards, and you don't use them enough.
Never mind.
Okay. So do you have any other complaints about things, like, gameplay-wise? Or are you starting to slowly realize that maybe part of the reason why you hated this is because you did so poorly at it, while your brother did so well at it? Is that fair?
No, not really.
Okay.
Kind of.
Okay.
But you
I feel
said
like we're having therapy here.
But you said a lot of things that you said a lot of things that I thought.
Well, I mostly just mentioned the rule booklet, which you didn't utilize.
No.
But you would probably have...
Like,
have
gameplay-wise.
just the luck. You just don't like as much luck.
No. I was just lucky because before I went to soccer practice, I saw the 4-leaf clover.
Okay.
And then when I came
A
back...
green 4-leaf clover?
Uh-huh.
Because you got lots of greens.
And then when I came back, I saw a 4-leaf clover.
So here's a question I have for you, Shaun. Would you want to play this again? Would you be willing to play this again?
Maybe if I had nothing else to do.
Okay. Second question. I forgot it. Well, so Luke, you want to keep this one though? You were really gung-ho about it a little bit ago.
Kind of. I will.
Okay.
As long as I have room.
As long as you have room?
Yeah.
So this isn't one of your premier games, but this is one that you'd like to keep?
Yes.
So here's the second question. Shaun, if you were 3 years younger and if you were Luke's age, do you think you would like this game now? Because it says it's for ages 5+.
Yes, I would.
And that at the end of the day is where I fall on this one. This has been a really long and winding game. Also, flipping over the tiles is kind of annoying. I think we can all agree on that.
Because there's like a really specific way you have to do it.
Yeah, it's once again, that one is more like a little nitpick, but it's just something that you have to do over and over again where it's like, yeah, it kind of bugs you. And Luke, you had a little issues with it too, didn't you?
Yeah.
But if you were younger, you'd like to play this game.
Yes.
And the bottom line is this is a game for ages 5+. And so what I think we're really seeing right here in this review is that if your kids are, I'd say, ages 4 to 8, I think this might be one for you. Because Luke sounds like he's about to grow out of it. You know, it's not like one that he loves, but it's like, yeah, I like it. It's good enough. Yeah, I think that's about it. You think that's fair?
Yeah.
If you had kids ages 4 to 8, maybe check this one out. If you have a lot of other board games, I think that this one is going to see the table list. Does that make sense?
Yeah, especially if you have other cooler racing games.
You think that's fair, Luke?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, maybe it's not the absolute pile of trash that's worth punching that you thought it was.
I mean, it kind of is, but no, kind of not.
Yeah. So yeah, and I like. Shaun and I also got into a fight about him tipping his chair, which played into this as well. So he might have been releasing a little bit more extra steam on this game that was meant for my face, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, get in gear. emotionally packed review. At the end of the day, is it great? Nah. But if you have a 4-year-old, they'll probably think it's pretty darn awesome. 5-year-old? Yeah. 6-year-old? Oh, this is okay. 7-year-old? Yeah, it's okay. 8? Yeah. 9? 10? Older than that?
11. I will never play this game.
Yeah. But let me know in the comments below what game in your collection is like that, where your kids outgrew the game. And I want to ask you guys, do you feel like you've outgrown any games that you used to like a couple of years ago a lot better? Looking at the games over there.
I'd say...
There's also a good chance we don't have these games, because I typically tend to keep the ones that people like.
Lappin'... No, not that game. By golly. I didn't really like it the second time I played it because I was much older.
That's an obscure hobby game from Rio Grande Games.
Oh, yeah. And...
Tic-tac-KO.
Tic-tac-KO. Okay.
I really like it still. And probably after the second time I played it, Rhino Hero, it was still fun, but I felt like I would have liked it a lot better if I was 2-3 years younger.
I would say my other one is the cleaning up Bluey's game.
Oh, the Bluey game?
Yeah, one of the where
Scavenger
you have to,
hunt.
Yeah, scavenger hunt.
And I also have games too, because when you first get into the board game hobby, I feel like there's some games you like a lot better than you play other games. You're like, oh, okay, that other game was great. For me, it's Munchkin. I was all gung-ho about Munchkin, and then the more games I played, it's like, you know what? I'm cool. I'm cool when I'm playing Munchkin ever again. But let me know in the comments below, what game have you grown out of? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.
Bye!
This video is brought to you by all of my amazing Patreon supporters, and I would love it if you would join their ranks and have your name immortalized in the end of many of my videos for the end of time. But consider for only $1 a month, and as always, thanks for stopping by.